So now he's gonna be moving in with his Zealot and Stalker heavy army. The Zealots are gonna be taking care of my Stalkers, while my Immortal keeps on picking away at those Stalkers. The Stalkers are gonna kill my Immortal, and I'm gonna have what seems to be an army that's good enough to kill his. So now I'm gonna be going for his natural expansion, but all he's gonna do is reinforce his army with a few Zealots, and that's already gonna be enough to kill my base. And one thing that he doesn't do all the game is that all he does is keep on making observers, but he keeps on sending them at me instead of killing the observer, the only observer that I made this whole game, and my observer stays alive for the whole game. And that's a very big issue because I get all that scouting information, and whenever he wants to get his scouting information, I'm not gonna allow him because my observer is gonna constantly be there. So now I transferred my probes over to the mineral line of my natural expansion, and I gotta keep on producing probes. And as you see, he has more of a harvester count, so obviously I'm behind in harvesters, which isn't a really good position to be in because now he's mining more than me, and he has that many more minerals to produce a bigger army. So now that I see that I was behind in the research, I'm now going to be researching zealot legs for my own zealots, and my opponent is actually gonna put an observer there, but it's gonna be picked off because of what I said earlier. And he gets that scouting information that I do have an expansion, but that expansion is gonna die. So as you see here, he has a very zealot and stalker heavy army, and he's actually now producing some colossi, and he's gonna be getting the thermal lance upgrade. So he's gonna be getting colossus. He's gonna be getting colossi faster than I will be, but I'll have immortals, which are very good against colossi. So it's kind of a trade-off. You can go for colossi to deal with my gateway army, or you can go immortals to kill those colossi. And what I'm going to be doing is going for immortals at the beginning, and then finally when I realize that that I need to finally keep up with him, I'm going to be getting some colossi of my own. And so my immortals are doing a very good job here. They killed all of his army. And now I'm going to be going to his expansion. I'm going to be waiting, and now I'm going to be heading out. And so as we see here, he has one Colossus out, and I'm going to move my Immortal to his Colossus. I'm going to try and pick it off, and my research has just completed, so my Zealots are now up to par of his. He gets to surround off on my Immortals, and now my Stalkers are going to be going for his Colossus. His Colossus dies, and he's going to be forced to move all his probes to his base, and I'm going to kill the Nexus. And now, but since I do kill this expansion, he has already had time to build the other natural expansion, and that one is a lot more easier to defend because the only thing I can do against that is I can either get a warp prism and warp in units from the back, or I can get Colossus out on the high ground and kill that expansion. But since I don't have Colossus yet, I will be at a great disadvantage because I can't pick off the only expansion that he can actually mine from. So as we see in the production tab, I'm going to be getting my second expansion, so I'm going to be an expansion ahead of him, and I'm going to be and so my natural expansion is fully saturated. There's a lot more probes than there needs to be, so I'm going to be moving my probes in right after my other natural expansion is finished. And he's going to be moving out his two Colossi, his gateway heavy army, with those two reinforcing Colossus. And so the one thing I do wrong here is that I keep my Nexuses full at mana, and what you really want to do is you want to make sure that you abuse that Chrono Boost because we were given it for a reason. So we want to keep on using it to Chrono Boost our researches, our gateways, and our robotics facilities so that we can produce units faster. So that is one problem that we get. And he has two Colossi, which are going to be picking off all my units from the back. I'm going to be using the Guardian Shield. Both of us have force fields. The force fields are now gone. He still hasn't used his Guardian Shield, which is probably a bit of a mistake because he could have taken a little bit more damage this way. And now I'm going to be... So now he's microwaving his Colossi. And I'm going to be trying to pick off that one Colossi, but that one Colossi is falling down. And he actually does a really good job of microwaving this one Colossi. He's going to be moving it to the high ground while I go with my Stalkers. He's going to be going up the high ground, and he's going to be abusing the range that the Colossus has. The Colossus has a range of 9, while my Stalkers only have a range of 6. And now he carelessly puts a Colossus here, and I'm going to be picking off that Colossus with all my units. And this Colossus will eventually go down. It's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to run away from you. Oh yeah, look at me run, look at me run. And then it's going to be like, oh, I know. So that one Colossus that he had on the high ground is now going to be trying to pick off my units. He's going to be running. He's like, oh yeah, my partner died, but look at me, I'm not going to die. So my Stalker is like, oh yeah, I can catch you for sure. So this Colossus tries to run. And he's like, oh yeah, smell you later. And he doesn't end up dying. And that's one very lucky Colossus. So I am starting to get Colossus of my own. And I have one out. And I'm going to be looking at the production tabs. We have the exact same amount of producing buildings. So we both have 2 robotics facilities and 2 gateways. And when we look at the harvester count, my harvester count is actually larger. So my minerals that I gained, I'm not going to have more minerals to get more units from. And I am only starting to research my extended thermal lances right now, which is going to put me at a pretty good advantage because now I'm going to be up to par with his tech. And I'm finally going to have something to respond with. And so looking at the army tab, we have the exact same amount of minerals essentially, and we're pretty even this whole game. It's a good back and forth. And I have 2 forges producing, and this is one mistake that he makes. He doesn't make any forges, so when he wants to upgrade his units, he won't be able to. And my units are, at the end of this game, there could be 1 armor and 1 attack, and this is going to put me at a good advantage because Colossus with the attack upgrade, they deal 4 more damage, and that 4 more damage spread throughout a large area is going to be good. And so you see here, I'm chrono boosting my upgrades as much as I can so that they finish as fast as I can before our next encounter. And he's actually starting to research the upgrade to make his observers move faster, which I don't really know why you'd want that because it's pretty useless in especially this stage of the game where there's not that many expansions out and I'm not really doing anything surprising because he already knows everything that he needs to know. So he's going to be getting the Zelnaga watchtower. He's going to be knowing that I'm there. His observer gets picked off once again, and he's going to be moving in with his very zealot, sentry, heavy army with his few Colossus. And now we're putting up the auras, and my Colossus at the very back. They're doing a good job. So we're moving out. The thermal lance is just tearing apart everyone, and now I have 1 Colossus that is out, and that 1 Colossus with 4 HP is like, oh, I'm so lucky. So it's starting to run away. The Colossus run at the same speed, so my Colossus are obviously trying to catch up to them, but they're gonna be like, no, I want you, and then they're gonna be like, no, but I want to run away. So I'm forced to go with his units. I thought that I actually had a bigger army than he did. So I end up engaging this, but with his Stalkers to back him up, he's going to be killing everything, and I just lost all those units, and now I'm going to be at a pretty big disadvantage because... Oh, actually, no, not that bad. So the Stalkers are going after my Colossus, and me wanting to save my Colossus are like, the Zealots are like, no, your life for hire, you're not going to die. So my Colossus actually survives, and I could have picked off that 1 Stalker, but no, but the Colossus does survive, so that's a pretty good advantage that I have there, because once its shields regenerate, then it's going to be more useful again. And so when we look at the income, my harvesters are still more. We're pretty even in terms of mineral count, and my gas count is better, and I'm finally starting to research Blink, because for this whole time I still haven't had Blink, and that if I had Blink earlier, that would have made me do a lot better. And now I'm starting to chrono boost my robotics facility so I can get my Colossus faster. And with 4 Nexuses, I can really afford to waste my chrono boost like that, because it is going to be really useful. And so he has a lot of sentries warping in. He's going to be using those force fields. He's going to be using the aura to reduce the incoming damage that goes in. And I'm just going to be waiting over here, macroing up like crazy. And going to be training still more Colossi. He's going to be getting Colossi of his own. And he produces 2 more gateways. And finally he's going to be producing a forge. But that forge was honestly way too late. Because if he had the upgrades earlier, he would have been at a way better advantage, because he did have more units than me. And so, as we see here, I have more Stalkers. We had the same amount of Colossi, but when it comes to Zealots, he actually has more than me. So he's gonna have more of a tank. He's gonna have more tanking from his army, and his Colossi are gonna be more protected. So he sends a Zealot here, and like the general must have been really stupid when they did that, because like they're like, "Huh, your life is useless." So they basically sent that Zealot there, let the whole army die, and now we have an encounter. The aura is up. He's gonna be placing a few force fields to block off, but I don't really have that many Zealots, so it's not gonna be that useful. And now my Stalker's gonna be blinking. They're gonna be picking off all the Colossi. The Colossus are gonna die. They're gonna try and micro, but there's not gonna be allowed to micro, because my Colossus are still gonna be picking off, and I especially kill off all his army. And he had 0 army, so my army was ahead by 2,000. That's gonna be a big disadvantage for him. And this is essentially where the game finished. He's gonna be running all his probes, but I'm gonna be using a force field, so I'm gonna kill a lot of his harvesters. And he had more harvesters than me, but now he doesn't. And so I'm gonna be killing off this expansion. It is pretty much mined out, kind of anyway. So it wasn't really that much of a loss for him. But as we see that the units lost, he has more resources lost than me. Whereas before, in the early stages of the game, I had more loss. So he did make a few mistakes this game. He could have definitely gotten his forge upgrades, and he probably could have not wasted some of his units the way that he did. He ran that Zealot over there. He had that careless Colossi that just left, and now I'm going to be killing one of the Nexus that is getting the high yield. And once that is done with, I'm going to be finished with that, and that is all. So as we see with the harvesters, I had 72 harvesters to his 43, so obviously there was a big disadvantage for him. So this is the end of my very first commentator. Man, was that ever a mouthful. Till next time, good luck and have fun.